Okay, I'm Jim with Motorhome Rehab Ranch on Patreon, and we're going to talk about the rear suspension and how to check it. All right, well, the first thing we got to do is jack it up. You want to jack the back end first. You put your jack right under the middle of the bogie. There's a bottom spot. Jack it up until you can get a jack right under the 2-bolt row, right behind that back wheel. That's double metal. That's where you want to be. Always jack the back up first, and then the front. If you jack the front up first, and then the back, you could pop a windshield. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check the wheels. We're going to check the wheel bearings. Now, the wheel bearings on the rear are just like trailer bearings. You got a nut that sets the preload. You have 2 bearings and a seal in the back. All right, there should be no play in the bearings. Play, a little bit of movement means there's a little bit of wear. A little bit more, I can hear it. Can you hear that? Okay, so we're going to have to pull the wheel bearings. This one is the loosest. That's not what should happen. This is what should happen. The rear brake should drag, so this one needs the most adjustment. We're going to take off the worst wheel and see what we have. So this is the wheel that Ricky's going to pull apart. He's already pulled everything but 2 lug nuts off. Hey Ricky, you ready to get this?
Yeah, I just gotta get some tools.
Okay, so what he's going to do is pull this wheel off, and then we're going to pull the drum off so we can look at the brakes and the bearings. All right? So it's all yours, Bubba.
All right.
All right. Now he's going to pull off the dust cap. Actually, the dust cap is kind of a beauty ring. Because inside you've got the bearing cap already in there. So if you didn't have a dust cap, I don't think the world would end. Okay, bearing. Here's the bearing. We're going to take off the cotter pin. That'll let us get the castle nut off, and then we can take off the drum.
This should be loose enough to take off by hand, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Wrong side.
There you go. Looks like it's got some old grease in there or something. Shouldn't be that difficult. Get an indication on the grease, the wear that it's had, because these things have been in some seriously heavy heat cycles. And if the grease is broken down, well, there you go.
This should have came off already. But when you can't
Yeah,
twist
that thing's tight.
So you can't do it by hand.
Something's wrong. Look at the threads to be sure they're not cross-threaded.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody did cross-thread it and tried to fix it. So when we go put it back on, it could be a problem.
No, they look good.
Look all right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's, here's the outer bearing.
There's your washer. And your outer bearing.
Okay.
You want to take a look at it, it's up to you.
The thing that's important on an old bearing is the cage. See how the cage moves up and down? You see what I'm saying? the balls could be nice and clean. They may not have any pits on them, but this tells you that the bearing has wear on it. Okay, so we're going to replace all the bearings. One bearing's $18 and the other one's $21. There's no reason to take a 12,000 pound vehicle and rely it on possibly a 45-year-old bearing. Do you agree? So we're going to replace all the bearings in all 4 wheels. So what's the grease look like in there?
Looks okay. It's not too bad.
Yeah. The shoes,
dirty.
they're what, are they about halfway down?
Yep, and they're actually riveted ones. So that's
They
good.
are riveted. So you can see here the rivets. You want to have rivet. If your shoes are glued on, we don't want to have that. And riveted. But we've got about 50% shoe left. So while we're in there, we're going to put new shoes in it. This is your bearing. Your wheel cylinder. Take your screwdriver and poke that and see if there's any wet inside. Take it from the outside and open it. Yeah. Is there any wet in there?
Nope, looks good.
Looks good. All right.
And usually you can see like it builds up a lot of dust, brake dust on the ends of these when they're leaking too from all the fluids in there.
Okay. The wheels, the hardware kits look original. I'm going to replace the hardware kits. These springs, all this, because I don't want this thing to go out. That one's already been extended. I don't know what the heck that is.
Yeah, that's the adjustment.
Yeah, so we're going to replace the adjusters, the hardware kits on this one. We'll leave the wheel cylinders. They're looking good. I want to put new shoes because we're down to 50%. Grease is okay. We want to get all that grease out of there. We want to put our synthetic Valvoline in there.
Yeah, it looks like they were overpacked because they're seeping out the back.
Right. See, blew the seal out. Putting more grease in, like you've heard of these people putting grease fittings on the front wheel bearings. Well, here's the problem: if you pack it once correctly, your wheel bearing doesn't use grease. You don't need to put more grease. Matter of fact, if you put too much grease, you'll have that. The seal will blow out, then you have grease on everything. So having grease fittings on your front wheel bearings, my question is why? Okay? People do different things, that's all fine. But I don't want to put too much grease. I want to put just the right amount of grease in the rear wheel bearings and in the fronts. All right. Next thing we want to do, thank you, is let the air out of the bags, and we're going to check the bogey pins. So you got a Schrader valve right there.
Let's see if I can find a way to get that valve right there. Yeah, it's on there real tight.
This is should be an extra shutoff valve at the wheel. That's a countermeasure. So if your compressor takes a dump, you can shut it off out here and fill it up. Also, you can let air out from right here. Now the shocks on this thing look about the same age as the front ones. So I'm going to recommend shocks. They were Bilstein. No, they're Caspros. Oh boy, those are real oldie goldies. Yeah, we need to replace those. So we're letting the air out of the bag because we want to check the swing arms. The way these arms are made, there's a pin, and there are 2 sets of bushings around that pin. If it starts to wear, the pin starts to move like this, or move like this, and that's a problem. All right, you got all the air out. All right, what we want to do is we want to lift this wheel up to about where normal ride height is and then pull in and out and see if there's any play. Boom.
Yep.
Yep. If you can bring the camera over here and look right there. Right here. Do it. See that movement? That's a bummer. That means we need to replace the bushings on this side. It's not real bad. It will get better. And here, grab this one with the wheel on it. Try to lift, it'll be a little bit heavier. Lift it up and see what that one feels like.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, real bad. Okay, this needs bogey pins. What's going to happen there is this entire suspension needs to be taken off. Bogey pins are pushed out from the inside out. Put new pins, size the bushings, put it all back together. You're looking at about probably 20 hours worth of labor to do this per side. Yeah, it's a bummer, but it needs to be done. All right, so this is pretty much what we do on the suspension. Along with our mechanical review, we're going to be doing a compression test. We'll be looking at all the hoses, belts, and all of that. We're going to go underneath, probably on the lift, check the fuel hoses. If the hoses haven't been touched in 5 years, 5 years ago, we did not know how bad ethanol was for nitrile rubber. So if the hoses are more than 5 years old, chances are they're hard as a rock and they're cracked. And if the crack goes all the way through, you suck air, you're not going to get fuel. So if we're going to bring this back to the road, we're going to have to go through the fuel delivery system, both on hoses and options on fuel tanks to make this thing where we can get fuel to the motor. All right, well, this is the kind of stuff we look at. This has nothing to do with the interior. All we're talking about is the running gear, the suspension, and all of that. So thanks a lot for Patreon, Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and Co-op. I appreciate your support. Give us a call. Talk to you later.